Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 2. In my last video, I was just explaining how the second date here that's coming up in this Bible code on the second Advent actually happens to be the date that God gave the Noahic covenant to Noah. And this is what was talked about, or one of the things that was talked about in this video that was a conversation between Gary Sturman and Bob Ulrich about Pentecost and how it seems to parallel the likelihood of a possible date for the rapture. And it just so happens to be Jerusalem Day, which is another very interesting parallel. And actually, Renee Moses talks about that in this other video right here that she's done on Pentecost. And it's something that I had actually talked about as well in one of the videos that I had done previously, where I talk about the calendars. I'm not sure where it is. Okay, it's this one right here that's titled April Bible Codes Important Calendar Information. And I had mentioned that as well, how it actually lines up with the Jubilee. It actually lines up with Jerusalem Day, or it's actually 1 week. Jerusalem Day is 1 week before Pentecost, and they both seem to be lining up, the two countdowns. One's a 50-day countdown, and the other is a 50-year countdown. And on June 7th, or right around that time, it's a different date on the Hebrew calendar, but it's just a couple of days off. But right around that time would be Jerusalem Day, and that would be the 27th day of the second month. It's the month of ER, and that would be the date that Israel, or the date that Jerusalem was made the capital, and it will be 50 years this June 7th since that first happened in 1967. Because if you add the 49 years to 1967, you'll get 2016. And so right after June 7th, it will actually begin the 50th year since the day Jerusalem, or since the day Israel retook Jerusalem, since they retook the capital. It will begin the 50th year on June 7th. So you have these two countdowns, the countdown for Pentecost, which happens every year, and the countdown for the Jubilee of when Israel retook the capital of Jerusalem. That countdown will coincide, and the two counts, one for the 50 days and one for the 50 years, will coincide right around the same time. So that's a very important convergence for those two important dates to come together like that at one point. And in Renee Moses's video, she had actually said that that would be called a fractal. And I'll pull up that word so that you can see what that means in just a minute. Okay, here's the definition for fractal, and it actually has to do with geometry. And I'll just read this shorter definition right here. It says, a figure or surface generated by successive subdivisions of a simpler polygon or polyhedron according to some iterative process. But if you look up the images, you can actually understand better what a fractal is. Probably this image right here with the triangles is probably the best way to describe it, because you have one big triangle with a smaller triangle of the same shape inside of the bigger one. So you would have like the big Jubilee, the 50-year countdown, and then inside that you would have the countdown for Pentecost would be the smaller shape that's contained within the bigger shape. And you see these images here of fractals, and they kind of remind me of the Fibonacci sequence, which is a spiral which occurs throughout nature, throughout the universe. Even the Milky Way and the galaxies have this design. It's all throughout nature, and it's just like a fingerprint of God. It just proves the divine hand of God, because you see this Fibonacci sequence everywhere throughout nature, and it kind of reminds me of that. So it's very possible, like I said, that these two dates converging at this point could be very significant. Okay, and just getting back to the imagery, I just want to quickly just explain the imagery in this table, and I think it's pretty obvious what I think this table represents. It seems to represent, and once you look at the matrix, it becomes more obvious. It seems to represent what's going on in heaven. If you read the matrix up here, it seems to be describing the rapture and what's taking place in heaven once the second advent takes place. And then over here below, it seems to be describing what's going to be going on earth during that time. And it's kind of like the right side up, upside down paradigm. I don't know if you're familiar with that, if you've watched Jonathan Kleck's videos, or as above, so below. Just, it's just symmetrical. Like if you were to print out this Bible code on a sheet of paper and fold it in half, it would probably look almost symmetrical. And, some of the interesting things that were in this table were over here, as you can see, it says beast, and then over here in an angle it says Obama, and then here in the blue you have the word Satan, and then here in the yellow you have cast, and then you have the word enter going right through the word beast, as if, Satan, well, we know Satan is going to enter the beast, and so you see the word enter going right through the word beast. And then you have the word Obama coming down this way at an angle from the word beast, and then you also have beast another time over here connecting with the B, or actually beginning with the letter B in the word Obama. So this actually had some visual imagery as well. And so I'll just go on to the next one. And I think I'll do this one next, which is another one that I had done a video on recently. And I thought this one looks really amazing as well. This one reads finish line, bride, Passover, postpone. And as you can see, it has the word finish here and the word line, and they all come in a line, in one line, as if this is the finish line. And then you see the word bride coming up this way at an angle. It's almost as if the bride is skidding towards the finish line over here. And what was really amazing about this one is that it was coming up right where you would expect the finish line to be. It was coming up in Revelation 11. And I had read the matrix in the video, but once again, the visual imagery of the bride just skidding towards the finish line here at an angle like that, that's just, what struck me as what this looks like. It kind of looks like, and I don't know if you've ever seen like little kids like on a hardwood floor where they're like racing or something, and then they'll just kind of drop to their knees and skid towards the finish line. That's kind of like what it looks like to me when it's just coming at an angle like that, like she's just making the finish line, you know, right at the very end. And it just seems to come to a point right here. So that's a visual imagery that I saw when I saw this table. And like I said, for it to come up right in the book of Revelation where you would expect the finish line to be is really amazing. And the other thing that I wanted to point out about this one is that it had the words Passover right over here. You see the word pass in the bluish purple, and it's meshed in with the word over, which is over here in the light blue. And it's almost as if this is like the last hurdle right before the finish line. And that's just what it looks like to me. I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to be the case and that that's definitely what it represents, but that's what it looks like to me. It looks like the bride approaching the finish line, passing this last hurdle over here to get to the finish line. And I'm going to go ahead and take a break right here, but as you can see, I have quite a few other Bible codes to go over the visual imagery for, but I'll do that in the next video. So I hope to see you there, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.